All aboard! Welcome to the Supernatural Station podcast. This is a paranormal themed journey, the train ride into the strange. I'm joined with my co-host, Jaron Daniels. What's happening? And our other special guest and co-host, Sean Martz.
What's going on, everybody?
Welcome, thank you for being here. Jared, what are we talking about on this one?
One of my favorite things that I find very intriguing is people of the blue collar work. And one of the blue collar work items I'm talking about is truck drivers. These guys have crazy stories, you guys. I'm in the rabbit hole right now. I've been deep diving and I don't think I'm gonna come back out. Like, I'm in trouble. That's why I'm wearing a hat, because I just don't want anything to see me anymore, because this deep dive's getting me, and I think the truck drivers' stories here are going to be baffling to the beholder.
Yeah, and and shout out to the truck drivers, because they pretty much run our country in a lot of ways when it comes to the food supply, and the entire supply chain really relies on them, and they're working those long hours away from their families and stuff, and then on top of that, they run into these weird things that happen to them out there on the road. It's like, man, I can't imagine.
And I will say that I think most truck driving companies have policies that they can't drive impaired at all. Like, it's intense, So I will say that I see these as more credible than a lot of things, Yeah, you get the occasional truck driver that wears a dress when he's driving and stuff. It's a little bit wrong sometimes. There's some weirdos out there. But most of our truck drivers are good dudes that are just trying to make a living. Good females as well, good men and women.
Yeah.
But they have some strange stuff happen.
Yep.
And I'm shouting out Ohio and Kentucky and all you weird states, man, that I still want to go visit, because there's so many weird things that happen in those places. Or down Route 66 towards California and Nevada and stuff. There's some weird stuff out there too. You get down in these desert lands. Yeah, I got some crazy stories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you got to think too, because these guys, they're out on the road all the time. A lot of them probably drive the same route, so that they're probably going to know the roads. They're probably going to know the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so when you have a story from a truck driver that, what am I trying to say? They're
if they see something that's out of place,
yeah,
it's like it makes
exactly.
It really stands out for them, probably, because they're like, I know this road back to back, like the back of my hand thing, and seeing something that's way out of place, really, yeah,
for sure. And I don't think they're driving with their eyes closed, but I think they could do it if you gave them the opportunity.
Probably.
Oh yeah.
That's unless automation takes over by then.
Oh no,
I don't think anybody wants that, but
we were just watching an AI thing. It was too much, you guys. This AI deep dive is scary too.
Well, also think about this. Imagine you start your day in Seattle and you end your day all the way down in Florida, or you end your day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you're driving from totally different types of climates to another different type of climate. And then there's these areas that have really big. They're famous for UFOs, or they're famous for cryptid sightings like Dogman, all this kind of stuff, right? And you may drive into one of those places and then also into the other, and so it's like, man, I don't know. It just, I can't even fathom it. That's all.
I got one for you guys. This
Cool.
is a good one. And I don't know if you guys saw a movie, The Fog. I don't know if it was even called The Fog.
Oh yeah, I remember.
You guys remember that?
I remember The Fog and the Mist. I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, there was two of those. Yeah, one of them had Tom Welling in it. I can't remember which one was which one, but this one's called The Fog, and it's a true story of an actual driver that worked for Pride Transport. So this is literally from their website. So again, this is why it's even more credible, you guys. It's not from some random Reddit site, which we do look at sometimes too. But I think this is cool that it's literally on their website. I was driving for Costco a few years back. It was around this time of year. We usually took extra toy shipments to various locations due to the holiday season. We got a call from one of our locations in rural Kentucky. What did I say about Kentucky?
Kentucky always shows up on these stories.
They needed to restock their shelves full of giant Spider-Man dolls. Shout out giant Spider-Man dolls, because those are cool.
Which one, Andrew Garfield?
I hope so.
Yeah.
They knew that I was a fast driver, so hey, I'm the transporter. You give me the last minute late night duties and I'll do it. I loaded my truck and headed out on the 265. It was around 3 a.m. when I started to have this eerie feeling. I chalked it up to just being tired and popped a couple of no-dos. About 15 minutes later, the road started to fog up. I mean, not more so than any other time before or since, but it got to the point where I had to pull off to the side and wait. There weren't any other cars on the road, and I was ahead of time, so I figured, I could wait until it cleared up a bit. About 5 minutes of sitting there, still in silence, my truck goes dead. No lights, no engine, nothing. I tried my CB, but couldn't get a hold of anyone. I checked my cell phone, and there's no signal. As I'm sitting there contemplating my next move, I hear what sounds like a child crying.
No way. I hate that.
Imagine you're in the middle of nowhere, and a child just starts crying.
No way.
Nope, I'm good, cuh. It slowly morphed into a woman crying.
Ew.
Or at least that's what it sounded like to me. Now, I'm a big man. I'm 6'3", 250 pounds. Again, this isn't me talking, this is the story, right? But I am around that same weight, y'all. It's tough. 250 pounds, but I refused to exit my cab. I did roll down my window and asked if anybody needed help. At that point, the crying just stopped. Then I heard what sounded like a sinister laugh. At this point, I felt like the laughter was directed to me. So I rolled up my window, and it seemed like the more that I scared, the more the scared I became, the louder the laugh went. Then as soon as it started, it stopped. And just like that, my truck started back up and the fog dissipated. I drove out there like a bat out of hell. I get to the next truck stop to pull in. I run to the bathroom and pour water on my face and ask myself, did this really just happen?
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's like the whaling entities that try to lure you to something dangerous. Again, we always talk about that, but it's like, again, like the fairies and the fae, I always bring that up, those Native American ones too, that they have, that the screaming in the woods, and the very similar stories, and they warn their children, like, don't go out there, because it's going to lead you to harm, type of stuff.
What I wonder,
go ahead. No,
I was going to say, what I wonder about this story is, or just in general with this type of stuff, is like, why does it pinpoint one specific person and in the middle of nowhere? And I think part of it is obviously to not be caught, whatever this might be. But I wonder if it's just like, it's out of energy. There's nothing around. And so whatever this entity might be.
Well, I find it interesting that the whole truck died. So, I mean, as paranormal investigators at one point in our life, like, you always hear about the spiritual realm sucking energy to manifest, right? So, I mean, this could go like, from the ghostly realm to, like you said, like some kind of a siren trying to get him to get out of the truck. Like, what would have happened if he got out of the truck? Right?
Yeah, and I find it eerily similar to the classic Bigfoot and rake stories and Wendigo stories, where they talk about they'll be, at a cabin next to the woods. I'm just saying they as in any general person or group of people.
Yeah.
Because I always ask who is they in somebody's story. But so there's this group of people at a cabin or something, right? And then there's the forest right there, and maybe a kid's playing with a ball, and then all of a sudden they hear some crying in the forest. It's always that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a good tactic for something that's a predator to get somebody to, lure themselves into a dangerous spot. And so I think that's being used with a lot of things, like a universal. Lions probably do it. I don't even know what lions do to lure their, maybe not lions because they go on prides, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I also have one, but this one I think I was stumbled upon. I thought it was pretty interesting, and it doesn't seem paranormal, but it seems really creepy. And I put myself in the place of the truck driver when I was reading it, so I was like, oof. So this one comes from, it's a Reddit one, Gozy NYR. I was 23. My newly married husband and I decided driving team would be a fun adventure after college, rather than jumping into a 9-to-5. I was down in Arizona on a long stretch of nothing, about 4 a.m., when a guy pulled up next to me waving his CB. I never left mine on. Listening to those guys' BS was irritating. I turned on my CB and he told me I'd blown out my tire. I thanked him, figuring I would stop at the next truck stop. He kept harassing me to pull over and check my tire for a good 40 miles.
I finally got to the next town and Pilot truck stop. Got out and checked my truck. No tires were blown anywhere. No clue what this guy would have done to me, but so glad I trusted my gut and didn't stop.
You know what this is?
It's creepy. Joyride.
Candy cane.
Right. Right.
I was just playing with you.
So wait a minute.
That's scary.
So
That
like,
messed me up.
was it another truck in the
Yeah.
CB radio that
Yeah.
wanted him to pull over?
Yeah, so he
That's
was like
creepy.
driving next to another
Oh,
semi,
he was driving next
and
to
the
him?
guy was like with the CB like, hey, you got a blown
Yeah.
tire.
Yeah,
Right?
just to get him to pull over. That's
Yeah.
scary.
And then he's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna,
No.
I'll do it. And then he's, but never pulled
I
over
wonder if
because he
he
had a
saw the
bad feeling.
driver. I wonder if he actually saw it or if it was just like a silhouette.
It was like this.
Yeah.
It was like this. Ready? He's just driving and he can't see the driver.
Yeah, it's just
And all
like
of a sudden he
straight
just goes like
ahead.
this. Ready?
Ew.
You got a flat tire.
What the heck?
That's scary.
I'm all messed up, guys.
So here's another like little short one that I thought I'd just share because we're still going here, but this one's crazy. So this one's from Biff McGee, also another Reddit.
What,
So the reason I'm
not
sharing,
Red Bull or something? Come
I think
on,
he's too
give it a
far.
break.
so the reason I'm open to sharing these Reddit ones is because I myself have told true paranormal stories on Reddit before, and so I believe that there's a lot out there that is true, and then I think there's probably some forgeries too, just like anything. So anyway, I thought I'd just share this one, but this is such a short one. So I drove by a marsh every night when I was going from home to work. One night I saw a car pulled over with hazards on. Dude was covered head to toe in blood. No crash, no injury, just covered in blood.
That's scary. What the
What
heck?
happened?
What is that? Why is he walking?
There's no crash, there's no busted up car.
He's just a walking
He's
bloody
just
guy.
completely
What
like
if you just, like,
Terry
do this,
style,
ready?
covered in blood.
I know you guys can't see this on the audio, but what if you just like?
way, come
No
on.
way.
That reminds me so much of Creepshow, like
Yeah,
Hitchhiker.
exactly.
Like, thanks for the ride, lady. Thanks for the ride. That's so
He
scary.
keeps getting more smushed.
No way.
Because she keeps hitting him.
Yeah, because she does.
And she's so rude. She just keeps hitting this dude.
Because-
He's just trying to get a ride.
Trying to show like
That's so scary.
yeah. One more really quick one.
Okay.
It's kind of so I want to do all three of these because they all kind of are similar in the way that like they may just be really freaked up people. They're not paranormal in any way, shape, or form. But some,
Careful, we let Roman do this third one, and we both of us go into a trance.
Yeah.
It's like Beetlejuice. Say it 3 times, it's over.
So this one's Toxic Waste 331. Saw a clown staggering down an alley in the city. Back facing us. Hello.
Ew.
While we were coming to a stoplight at about 1 a.m., looked like he was still blowing balloons. Not seeing his face made it more ominous. I'm not sure if it was like a really creepy, sad, maybe he was on his way to abduct children, or maybe he was just a blind drunk guy after a long day. But what is that? Like, he's in a clown costume, like walking
It
down
just
the
makes
road.
me wonder, like, what are people doing with their spare time?
Yeah.
Like, are these real
And he's
people,
blowing
for
balloons.
one?
Yeah.
Number two, like, do you remember the clown fiasco?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
When
wonder
they're
if it was
breaking
right around
pumpkins.
that time. I don't know when the
Remember that
story-
one big one that like breaks the pumpkin on camera and just
Yeah.
stares at
That's
it?
scary.
Yeah.
Dude,
That was aggressive.
but that one probably would freak you out, though, if you
Oh,
saw
yeah.
that, like, just driving by an alleyway and just some random clown is
Yeah.
just out there. No way.
Walking down the alley. Yeah.
It's that revolver life, you know? You just
Yeah.
gotta carry one.
All right, so here's one more. Actually, we probably have a couple more, but these are interesting because, like we mentioned, the truck drivers they should know these routes, and they probably get to see a lot more cryptid, creepy things than most people, especially when they're by themselves and whatnot. And actually, it's funny. Before I read the story, a lot of truck drivers they start listening to a lot of religious things,
Yeah.
like a lot of sermons and churches and stuff, and it's like. I wonder how many of those truck drivers, saw something that kind of either freaked them out or something they didn't understand, and so they're like, I gotta get right, all right,
Yeah.
I gotta start thinking about this stuff, I can't even imagine, like 10 hours on the road at night, like you're just to your thoughts,
Probably all those crashes too. Like I can't imagine seeing crashes because you see a lot more when you're a truck driver,
Yeah.
and bodies and just I don't know, just creepy stuff. I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's actually a really common thing for people that spend time like in a prison for a little bit too, or like anywhere where you're kind of just left to your thoughts, like a long confinement or something like that, So yeah, and then you start going kind of religious, you start finding God type of thing. So yeah.
So this story is another Redditor, Hicks Son JD, and it starts out, friend of mine was driving an overnight through Arizona on a basically abandoned road, and his truck started having electrical issues, lights cutting on and off, no CB, etc. After about 5 minutes of that, a convoy of law enforcement / federal emergency vehicles passed him. In the middle of the emergency vehicles, there was a flatbed semi, so it's coming the opposite direction. There was a flatbed semi in the middle of the emergency vehicles with a massive saucer-shaped item chained to the bed and covered with tarps. About 5 minutes after passing the convoy, his radio and the truck electrics came back up. He still recounts it as the craziest thing he's ever experienced on the road. So apparently in the vicinity of whatever this thing that was being carried was enough to shut down. But why would it shut down his and not the others unless maybe they prepared the vehicle?
Yeah, they probably have like special VPN type stuff for those vehicles when they're doing that.
Yeah,
or like a Faraday cage that like blocks all the radiation type stuff. Yeah,
they have to. They probably know the tech, and I think, I don't know, is that magnets that does that, or is it just electro waves?
It's like magnetic waves. I think it's like sound waves or radiation of some sort.
But it would make sense. Maybe it's like a protection thing.
Yeah.
That whoever agency is carrying this craft does it on purpose so that it helps mask what people might be seeing.
Right.
And if it's like, I imagine like what was it on like Justice League?
Mm-hmm.
When he shuts down all the lights and then he shows up. I wonder if they have something similar like that.
Yeah.
Where they can actually like turn off lights so that you didn't see anything, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like right in the Four Corners zone. Arizona, like definitely the big hotspot for UFOs. That area in Nevada, right? But Skinwalker Ranch too, right in the south corner of southern southwestern corner of Utah. So yeah, I think it was a UFO for sure.
I just think it's interesting that, like, if they're coming from that area, then that means it's definitely from one of those bases, the classic bases that you hear all the time, the S4s, the Area 51s, probably something that's even more hidden, but, it's still in the same vicinity. I think all those bases probably connect. There's probably some kind of interweaved connection. And then
I wonder, like, in that situation, if it's like a recovered craft and they just barely picked it up and that's why they're moving it to like the secured location, or like why would they want to move it? What's the point? Like they should be able to just fly, to the next location or something. I just think that's kind of weird that they risk going on the road where others might see it. But this was late at night, like early morning, late at night kind of thing. So maybe they're just, I guess guessing and anticipating there's going to be nobody on the road.
I know it's a random thought, but there'll be times I'll be sitting out, having a cigar or something, just relaxing on the balcony where I live, and I'm on the 3rd floor, and there's like where I'm sitting, you can see all the stars and stuff. And I know this isn't like fully connected to what we're talking. It is. You'll see what I'm saying. But I feel like I'll be sitting out there, you guys, and like all of a sudden it'll be like a nice, super nice day, and then all of a sudden I'll hear like one of those really loud helicopters, and then it'll get cloudy, like super cloudy. And then after it gets cloudy, it's like there's like you can see like little lightning stuff here and there in the clouds. And it makes me wonder if they have some kind of weather tech and they're like moving UFOs secretly so people don't see them at night. Yeah. I mean, that'd be the best cover is to have.
There was a guy, and it's gonna kill me because I'm not gonna be able to remember his name, but he was experimenting with trying to create rain in a time. He was living in a time in an area where they were experiencing like a rainless situation. It was like a drought type situation, and they couldn't grow crops and everything. And he figured out, I guess, some way to like make it rain, and it was using some kind of technology or some kind of hidden knowledge or something that we didn't know about. And yeah, that's like, weird. Maybe they have something like that so they can conceal.
You know how they have this is a weird thought, but you know how they have ozone machines me and Roman are apartment managers, and which is our day job, by the way. This is our actual job, the thing we love. But I will say that, when you're an apartment manager, you'll run into stuff where there'll be something super smelly in an apartment or something, right? Like the curry smells or whatever it might be, and you can't get it out. And so the only way you can do it is with this thing called an ozone machine.
Oh yeah.
And it'll basically suck the entire air out of that room, and you can't go in there if you do. I'll start like seizing up and coughing and stuff.
Yep.
And so I think they have something very similar to that, but it's opposite. It creates moisture. It pulls the moisture from whatever's in the air.
Condenses it, right?
And condenses
into one area.
Right.
If I'm thinking scientifically, which I'm not very smart, but if there was something you could use like that, I would say something
That's
like
a good
that would
thought.
be a
That's
good.
a really good
You
thought.
know what,
Really
though? I mean,
create
that's a good tie-in to maybe part of the subject is weather manipulation and control. That's actually, that's a hot topic, and you're not far off. You're not the first one.
Yeah.
Obviously, the movie that came out, the Nope movie or whatever, tried to kind of assimilate this, UFO thing with the clouds. But
I did see that, by the way.
actually, what's funny though is I actually remember there was a moment in my life when I was at the baseball game, and towards the east of the mountain range. I don't remember what they call the mountain range right there, but in Salt Lake in the baseball field, it's kind of downtown. And I was at the game is because it was like a work related thing. They just kind of like have people come to the game. And I remember that there's even an article, we might be able to find it, but it's an article of the cloud that never moved, and it was and it was a funky looking cloud, and I mean science tries to pull it off by saying it's a wind tunnel current kind of thing, which whatever, but
it didn't move.
It was all the thing is this is what you don't want is all the other clouds around it moved.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what are the odds that in this little pocket that this cloud that kind of resembled a cloud, but it was kind of like a cigar shaped looking cloud.
Yeah.
But all the other like puffy, what do they call those nimbus clouds around it were moving. Like it was clearly moving.
I've seen pictures of that. I know there's pictures of it somewhere, and also the Salt Lake Bees Stadium is the one you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And you were looking east towards the Wasatch Front, the Rocky Mountains. So if you guys wanted to look into this, it's like you could literally just type in like Salt Lake Bees Stadium. That's where, and you could see the mountain view from what he's talking about. It's really pretty, guys. We're really lucky to have those mountains around us. But if you want to see it, that's also where like the Sandlot dudes that made Sandlot, they'll go there like once every 5 or so years and go see a game and stuff. So you'll probably find a ton of pictures of the Bees Stadium. But that's crazy. Like, yeah. Totally, and I've seen stuff like that too, like in person.
They did that on Nope. There was that part where they're all looking at that cloud and it's just staying, you know, and it never moves the entire time throughout the whole movie, you know. Right. So that was pretty crazy. All right, I also have another one that I thought was really interesting. I like these ones like this because I think they happen more often than we think, and they never get told. This one is also Reddit. It comes from HDORSETT Case. I don't know how you say that, but so it says, my grandfather told me this story about how he was driving west to east along an empty stretch of road in southern South Dakota. He stopped at a stop sign at an intersection with nothing in sight, no buildings and no other vehicles. Then there was a bright light that hit him. He looked up and saw a bunch of blinking lights. Next thing he knew, he was at the counter of a diner about an hour down the road. It was about 6 hours later, and he had no idea what had happened. He asked the person at the diner when he came in, and the guy told him he came in about 10 minutes ago, and he just started drinking coffee without talking much. My grandpa told him what had happened, and the guy said something like, "Yep, that happens around here sometimes." Nothing weird ever happened to him ever again. He avoided that area for the rest of his life. He said he doesn't believe in aliens and doesn't know what happened, but he had a suspicion that he thought he had been abducted and just never accepted it. He just told me never to tell this story to other people, but he died years ago, and most of the people who knew him are dead, so I figured it was okay. What I think is kind of strange is why, it's just a random thought, but like why do people that get abducted, because me and Roman feel like we've had that occurrence as well, and we have some good proof behind that, which is coming out on another podcast that we'll share you guys the link on soon. Shout out. But I will say that the thing I think that's weird is like, why is it that humans are, maybe we don't know what this is, but I still don't know what it is, but I will say that why are we scared of reimagining what happened during those times? And I think because how he's like, I avoided that area the rest of my life, it's like, I'm kind of more curious, like minded. I'd almost be like, we need to figure out what this is, like get closer to it and find a way to, if it's evil, destroy it or something. I don't know, but I think we have that animal fight or flight thing. Maybe that's what it is. Like, but I feel bad for cows then. Like cows are like thinking that about us all the time, because maybe there's like an underlying trauma that still like is there, even though he doesn't remember a single thing about like any memories. But maybe there's still that trauma that when he goes to that area, it's all tied back to what he went through, and he doesn't even know what that is, right? But it's like his body's reacting, like, oh. Yeah, I mean, I heard another podcast where they were talking about an abduction thing that happened. It was actually on the Confessionals, which is a podcast we love to listen to.
Shout out Tony Merkel. He does great work over there. But I will say that, like, on that podcast, I will say on that podcast, he's like acting like it's the most traumatic experience, and he feels bad that he allowed some siblings to be involved in it and stuff, being that he drove up to where the abduction occurred and stuff. But there was no trauma that really happened that he could really pinpoint. So it was like nothing really bad happened to him from what I could tell, you know?
Yeah.
But he's so scared of it. Like, it's the scariest thing that's ever happened to him, you know?
Right.
And so I just kind of wonder about that, I guess. That's just a random thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something's in, like, with abductions, you hear a lot of fake memories, kind of, what do they call it?
Screen memories.
Screen memories, yeah.
Which is what happened to us.
I'm wondering if screen memories, and this is just me spitballing, is only half the picture. I wonder if they intentionally put some kind of a fear so that it's like a mechanism to prevent the spread of this whatever took place, right? Like they want to keep it hush. They probably don't want people going back there and saying, hey, you know, let's go investigate if anybody else in this area is having problems. I'm wondering if it's like an innate fear that they put into your brain to cause that, so that it's just a controlling mechanism. You know, they feed off of the fear, the natural, like, self, you know.
Well, and some think that they put you in a state of fear so they can get that adrenochrome and stuff, right? That stuff in your blood that gets them to feel more powerful and stuff.
And it's also like that old, you know, classic cartoon thing where it's like, remember when Peter Pan was like acting on Peter Pan the Disney one? Mm-hmm. He was acting like he was like Captain Hook's voice.
Oh yeah.
And he was doing that crazy voice like from afar. And I just pictured this is the same thing. And that was a screen memory. Like, he was making something not real to them, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you see that in cartoons too. It's like you see eyes and it looks all intimidating, but it's like shadowing. They can't see anything. They get up close and it's just a little mouse, like just trying to be intimidating, right? You know?
Yeah.
So it scares off the bad guys. I think maybe aliens, if there is aliens, whatever. I believe in aliens. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what they are. But if they're small creatures, they're definitely a lot weaker than we are.
Yeah.
So maybe they're trying to find ways to keep us in line without physically fighting us.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, it's too bizarre though. It's almost like because you got to think it wasn't just like he skipped time and ended up someplace. Like, people witnessed him walking in on autopilot or like something, and it just when you told that, I just totally like pictured Men in Black. You know, like the
neuralizer.
Well, not just that, but not the movie, but like the security camera footage of like these Men in Black dudes or creatures that are just like, they seem like they're being controlled in a way. The way they walk, the way they hold themselves. It's almost like they're like radio controlled in some weird way.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen that, it's a pretty easy one to find. Just look up like Men in Black walk up to a counter or something like that. You'll definitely see that video.
It's the one where they're hustling that secretary.
Yeah.
They kind of walk
and
up.
She pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
And he does like some weird thing with his hand.
Yeah, like a weird motion. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too is not really funny, but she actually has a follow up to that. The person that got abducted, like somehow, I don't know how she escaped, but she actually has a follow up interview about, you know, what took place after that, and it's
She tried to find
pretty incredible. Like, it's, I mean, of course, anything in this day and age could be, you know, fake, but I mean, come on, these people are like 7 feet tall. Yeah, that's another thing. It's
Plus, they're hairless. Like, there's literally no hair on their faces or bodies, and looks a little bit unnatural, like they're wearing some silicone mask or something, you know?
They don't have like normal noses. It's almost like a reptilian nose. It's close to that.
So weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, look that up. I know what I'm looking up after this for sure. I want to see that follow-up that you're talking about. It's
very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more trucker one, you guys.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know. Like I said, I went on the rabbit hole. I'm lost in the sauce on this stuff, so I'm gonna keep reading them too, like after this podcast, because it's insane. I actually kind of wanted to be a truck driver at one point. I thought it'd be kind of cool. So until I started thinking about like all the like cliffs and valleys you'd have to take on the snow,
yeah,
I'm like, nah, I'm good. But this one's called the Shapeshifter. So many years ago, I was on a shift called the Meat Intern. This is where the driver that was just domiciled out of the city will drive a load halfway to its destination, while the other driver that meets him halfway and brings the load where it is needed to be delivered. I had been doing this run for about several months, and I found out that I had to meet on point an hour before the other driver arrived. It was dark and empty. It was an empty lot around 3 in the morning. It's always around 3 or 4 in the morning, I swear. So since there was still just some time to kill, I decided to close my eyes and take a short nap. About 10 minutes into my nap, I was awakened by a barking dog. I tried to ignore it, but it carried on for about several minutes as it grew louder and closer. At this point, it became clear that he was trying to get to alert me of something that might be in danger, and he was trying to be a pain in the butt. So I sat up, I looked out my window, and what I saw left me motionless. Standing there, inches on the other side of the glass, was a man around 35 years of age. He was a large fellow, and he was just barking at me.
Oh my gosh.
His eyes were crazy, and he was even frothing a little from his mouth. The sheer creepiness struck me, and gently, without making any sudden movements, I reached down and started my truck and slowly started pulling away. As I was doing so, he was chasing after me, much like you would see an angry dog still barking as it kept trying to chase a car, pulling away. Needless to say, I don't take naps on the job anymore.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a credible one from Pride Transport again. So, I think, dude, that guy was on some serious bath salts. Or it was literally like, there's stories about werewolves, like not just dogmen, but actual werewolves shape-shifting.
It could have been like a skinwalker, like halfway changed, like going into that dog shape, It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, either way, I know I stuttered through that, but that story was crazy because I was stuttering because I was scared, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was tough.
I got a thing against barking dogs. Anybody who knows me, knows that I can't handle, I'm more of a cat person. I've had dogs and stuff, and they're, if they're well trained, they're well behaved, that's fine, but for the most part, I just can't handle, and so I can't handle dogs that just bark for hours and hours.
It's usually the small dogs, I'll call that out, but yeah, I'm with you.
But yeah, just seeing like a dude, I don't know, man, I don't know what you
frothing.
You know what the scary part is too is if it was just like a practical joke, which doesn't make any sense.
Not at 3 in the morning. Yeah.
Well, one at 3 in the morning, but the other thing is a lot of truck drivers carry.
Right.
And so
that's what I was thinking.
You think any sane person in their right mind would be like, what if he pulls out a gun? If I'm just dicking around, kind of thing,
Right.
And it's like, a lot of truck drivers have shotguns and things, and so
yeah.
I don't know. This dude was, like you said, tripping, but I'm sure nonetheless it would probably be super terrifying to see.
And it obviously was real enough to sound like a real dog. That's what he thought it was at first. And then seeing this psycho, I just picture a bald psycho guy with a small double chin, not a big double chin, and he's got he's got a couple extra necks with some warts or something.
With the acoustics of the
And-
bark.
Yeah,
It's like a sharp thing.
yeah, kind of like rib. Bow.
Bow, come on.
But yeah, I just picture that in googly eyes, kind of looking like Mr. Bean. You know what I'm saying? And he's frothing.
Yeah.
He's like, rah, rah.
Holy crap, dude.
Again, I was gonna do a Hook reference. This is like a Peter Pan reference.
Yeah,
Remember?
Hook.
Yeah, Hook. Because the dog's barking.
You can fly. You can fight. You can be the chill.
That's scary.
That is so scary.
Yeah, so truck drivers, we're gonna move on, but man, shout out because I'm sure we'll probably come back around to some more of these stories. And my brother is a truck driver part time. I can ask him. He actually is one of the ones that wants to come on the show. He's got quite a few stories and things, so it's just been tough trying to get his time. But
we'll get him one of these days.
But yeah, shout out to the truck drivers. We appreciate you. If you have any stories, if you are a truck driver or have been or know of somebody, and you've got something interesting to share, please email us.
Yeah. Supernaturalstation5@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yep. And where are we gonna go from here? You guys want to talk about first responders? Is that what we're saying?
I think we transition
I
into
think
that.
so. I think planes, trains, and automobiles kind of thing. But
perfect.
But first responders came to my mind this evening because, well, one, I have family who was one, first responder. I saw a lot of crazy things, but first responders, if you think about it, they are the first ones that, whether they're police or EMT or something they deal with some of the stuff that you most people can't handle, right?
Right.
Not even TV shows can put up like the reality of what some of these people go through. And so I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to kind of give a shout out. You know, there's first responder stories out there where they walk into homicides, suicides, and they see double entities, and someone's like blowing a scary air horn. There's a clown.
Oh my
outside.
God, no way. That's legit right there. Alright, so I have a crazy story, guys, regarding an EMT. He's had 20 years experience, by the way, and he was a reputation of being a tough guy with a big heart, just trained other EMTs and stuff like that. So he's one of these guys you can definitely trust. This was back in 1981. He was an EMT for the New Hampshire area, actually volunteering with the fire department. And it was in New Hampshire. You know, there's a farming community right there. There was an old farmhouse that had three elderly. It was two brothers, or no, a brother, sister, and a cousin that lived in this house. They were all elderly, like in their 80s or something. And, you know, sometimes they'd get calls because there was something going on, right? Being elderly, they had checkups and different things, different scares. And Mary was the sister, right? And she was probably the oldest of the three. She was called in because she got frail and had osteoporosis and was admitted to her nursing home. But John, her brother, and then the cousin were left at the farm. And one day, the cousin who lived nearby was unable to reach John by phone and became concerned, so he went to the farm and entered the house. He discovered that John was in an upstairs bedroom. He was unconscious, suffering from a stroke. He immediately called 911. Word of the trouble was that the word of this trouble of the farm spread quickly, and soon sirens were blaring. There was people from other cities coming to help out. It was kind of a big thing, and everybody sort of rallied together. But when he arrived, the gentleman that was 20 years experience and, you know, volunteering, he said he walked into the house and he was told to hurry as the CPR was underway. As he entered the front hall, on his left was a sitting room, and in the room he noticed an elderly woman sitting in a rocking chair smiling back at him. He thought how happy and peaceful she looked, and was a bit odd that, given the fact of circumstances going on, that her brother was having a stroke upstairs, right? But then he recognized her. He's like, oh, that was Mary. I've seen her before. Then they get John to the ambulance, transport him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Oof. As my boss was filling out his paperwork, the boss is the gentleman that saw what happened. He was filling out the report at the nurse's station. He made a comment to one of the staff and said how sad it was that Mary was well enough to go home and that John had to die like that. The staff member gave him a look, a strange look, and asked him, what was he talking about? My boss said, how great Mary looked at the house. He was then informed that Mary passed away the day before at the nursing home and couldn't possibly have been at the farm.
Oh, wow. So, like, other EMTs had already dealt with Mary?
Yeah.
And
so they all knew her because they've been getting calls from them quite a bit. She had osteoporosis, so...
And it sounds like it was somewhat of a small town.
Kind of like a frequent person,
yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah, frequent flyer miles in hospital. But yeah, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
So she was there.
Just sitting in that rocking chair, just like watching the whole situation unfold. She was probably there to help him transition or something. You know?
And it said he even described what she was wearing, including an oversized set of pearls and a pink flowered dress to the staff. The dress was Mary's favorite dress, and he had no doubt that the pleasant elderly woman who gave him a warm smile was indeed Mary.
Wow.
It says 2 days later, my boss and his then girlfriend decided to attend the wake for John and Mary, as Mary was the girlfriend's grade school teacher. As my boss walked into the funeral home, he gazed over to the coffin holding Mary and nearly fainted, for there was Mary wearing her favorite pink flower dress and the oversized pearl necklace, exactly the one she was wearing 2 days earlier at the farm.
So he must have seen
her. So he saw
like
her spirit saying goodbye to John.
He must have seen her like she was like plain as day, like a human, total human, like no, not translucent at all.
No, I got chills from that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and it's like he had to have like if he noticed the details, so it wasn't like a rush in and like see you at the corner of the eye kind of thing, right? Because you hear a lot about that. You know, it's pretty common. They see something and then they turn back and it's gone. But this was like he made eye contact.
Yeah, she recognized him. She like smiled and waved or something, you know.
So, but that's exactly what I'm talking about with these first responders, because I mean, I'm sure a lot of them probably don't even want to tell the stories because you know the credibility or whatever, right? They don't want to seem crazy, but I mean, if what's true when people are on their verge of death, like there's got to be something going on.
Yeah.
During that transition, right?
The thin veil, like you have a chance to maybe do a goodbye real quick. Maybe that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
Maybe she was, because she knew John was dying, because he had a stroke and that was her brother, right? And so maybe she showed up. She's like, I'm dead, but give me a chance, God, to like say goodbye to my brother. And maybe that's what happened. You know, maybe they're gonna go together. Who knows? But it's definitely crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But it was a good one. Like that one's not like maliceful or anything. But I definitely still get chills from it because it's just out of our bounds a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and if he wouldn't have said anything like, "Oh, it was really cool seeing Mary there," you know, they might not have even, like, the other person would have responded, and he would have never knew that anything was strange there at all. You know,
I noticed it was 20 years. Like, you know, this guy's been retired, so I'm sure he only told the story after he'd been retired.
Right.
You know?
And that's what I'm saying. You know, I think that there's a lot of stuff that goes on that they just, for whatever reason, it's just, you know, they want to put a not
stigma.
Very credible thing for you know, whoever they're working for.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're that officer that sees ghosts, you know, or like, and then they have to go through like a psych evaluation in those situations sometimes, I think, and
I think it's just moreover, it's like, you know, would you want? I wouldn't care because we're believers, you know. We know we think the world's stranger than it seems on the outside, but like other people, they don't want to hear this stuff, you know. Like sometimes they're just maybe too scared, too in their own world or something. So if they hear that there's somebody that has these kinds of mindsets, like, are they going to trust him to, like, save them, you know, and stuff, like, so maybe there's that, too, you know, oh, they're not sane enough to help me or something, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know who the author is, but there was this author that was actually focusing on doctors that see paranormal, you know, situations happen, like, in near-death moments, or they'll talk to a patient that's about to die, and this patient's like, oh, there's my father coming to greet me and take me away, you know,
that's
that
so
kind of
cool.
stuff.
And those stories are cool.
Yeah, like, I mean, a doctor, I didn't see a lot of those stories, but those kind of stories are really powerful too.
Yeah, and there's stories too. I mean, that's a little bit more on the kind of creepier side of not just first responders, but morticians.
Oh,
there's a lot that goes on in the mortician where they've, you know, people, like, bodies have moved. If we can find the story, it'd be awesome, but there was one where a security guard and a mortician, like in a mortuary place, was they kept seeing a corpse moving around. Like, I'm talking about, like, it was laying on this table or in this thing.
Then they find it somewhere
else. They come
else.
back, it's gone, then they find it somewhere else. It wasn't really moving around, but it was like, it was moving and then laying down again, and then moving, and then, but they would only see it in different places of this thing. And so it's like,
that's the classic scary movie where you're like, the dude, like, bends over, and then all of a sudden the body's, like, sitting up, and then he bends back over and it's like laying down.
Yeah, but can you imagine though? Like, if you're a mortician, like, I'm sure dead is dead is dead, and probably 99.9% of the times dead is dead. But there's always that one small fraction that you know this person is dead because you just autopsied him, but it takes a breath or something, right? And it's like, I know that sounds kind of out there, and it might be, but there are accounts of morticians or mortuary places that are like, this person, you know, for some reason took a breath, or it made a noise, or you know, like a hand like fell off the table when it shouldn't have. Stuff like that.
Another tangent, but it reminds me of, like, you know, in the old days where they used to bury people and they'd bury them with like a bell and a little rope because one of them would come back to life, or like maybe they buried them live, like prematurely, thinking that, hey, like, they are dead, but it was really just like a little.
They were in a coma or something.
Yeah, just like somebody got knocked the F out or something.
Actually, I saw a video really, really recently, so it's weird we're talking about this now, but Sean, what you were just saying, I've got to find it. If I can find this video, I'll share the link in our page under the YouTube page. But it's it's a security camera, like, you can tell it's night vision in a mortician room. The morticians are gone. There's just a body, like, sitting on a slab, and there's like a kind of sheet over top of him and stuff. And all of a sudden you see him just like reach his hand up and like pull the like sheet off, and then he just like sits up for a second and then like turns and just like sits there for a while, and then just like kind of slumps over and falls off the table.
That one's not good.
And dude, I don't know if that guy was like pronounced dead but maybe wasn't, or if it like reanimated for some weird reason for just a second.
Like, maybe he came back to life for a moment.
Yeah, maybe his soul like tried to get back in the body or something, or a demon or something. It creeped me out, man.
Yeah, but
I'll try to find that
sounds
video.
scary.
Yeah, so like, yeah, not to get on tangents, but
Oh my gosh.
but imagine like these are jobs that most of us don't, we won't even fathom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of people that I know who have walked in on a domestic violence case or something tragic, or somebody got stabbed. I don't remember the exact details of what happened, but basically, walking in and you see the incident, and then you also see like shadow figures around, like shadow entities moving around. So you put the two and two together, and you gotta wonder if like a lot of these domestic, like scary, tried to murder somebody, or even potential, like tragic to say, but people who take their life, like these responders are seeing kind of the other side. They're seeing either some kind of entity that might be a factor in this, but
like evidence of
foul play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like something that's kind of egging on this person to stab their wife or whatever,
Yeah.
Oh,
pretty scary
gosh.
stuff. There's stuff gets pretty deep, more so than people want to think about, but that's what the show is for.
Yeah.
The show is to bring out, and we discuss the things that people don't really want to talk about. And
wasn't there a story, Rome, which again we delve deep in these podcasts because we love it. Like this is it. This is so much fun. But there was a story. I think it was on Wes Germer's show, Sasquatch Chronicles. But it was the one where there was that police officer that was, and he didn't tell his story till he was retired too. But how he pulled over, and then there was like a Bigfoot that like came to his car. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was like on the passenger side, and then like it like moved his truck or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he wouldn't say that until later, but like that was a huge defining moment for him. He's literally by himself and like around 2 or 3 in the morning again in a desert street in this, not desert, but forest,
Right.
And literally Bigfoot came and terrorized him. Like,
I remember one that's a highway patrol guy, and you may remember this one too.
Similar.
And he pulls somebody over who was like swerving all around and stuff, and the car was, I remember the story that the car was jam-packed with stuff, like somebody was moving. When you have like a little car and you don't have a truck and everything's piled in there because you're driving cross country or something to your new place. It was something like that, and that's what the cop is. And this, at the time, I remember the story was that the cop was new on the job, so he was like a new highway patrolman. So his training is really fresh, and so he knows exactly what to do and how to approach a car and all this kind of stuff. Which, by the way, I've seen people approaching cars, officers, and I can get in their heads and how scary that would feel to be coming up, because you never know who you're dealing with inside the car and what they're capable of. But I just remember, so he starts getting this really, really scared feeling, like a fight or flight feeling as he's starting to approach this car.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy like is sitting in the car as he's turning the corner, and the window's down. He did roll the window down, but the guy's just like 10 and 2 and looking straight. And as he starts turning and looking at him, he's trying to, hey sir, do you understand why I pulled you over? Can you show me your ID, your license, your registration, all that stuff? And the guy's just not responding at all to him. And as he's turning and starting to get around the corner, he like sees this huge smile, like this giant unnatural grin on the guy's face, like this biggest grin and the blackest of black eyes. And he's like, it was the scariest moment of my life. Whatever that entity was made me feel gross and scared as all get out. And he's like, I literally, once I saw that huge grin and the guy not responding to me, I went back to my patrol car and I literally left. I didn't.
No way.
He's like, I didn't do the proper thing. I didn't report it. I didn't, put it in any database.
It's not worth your life on that one. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but he said it smelled. I remember he said that the inside the car smelled like rotting meat too.
Ew.
And the thing had the whitest, palest skin.
So it was like something that was like it was like a corpse, but it was like something controlling the corpse or something, right?
Yeah, or like the grinning men. We were kind of talking about that off air for a little bit, something like that.
Probably just I think personally that was like a manifestation, like a demonic in this guy, and waiting for somebody else to switch into or something, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe that cop was a perfect.
Well, and he was thinking, he's like, man, there's something fishy about this car. It's kind of a busted car, and like maybe I'll find that like evidence of drugs, like maybe, all this stuff. But when he actually gets up there, just that immense like heart drop feeling of just fear.
Wow.
And he's like, I've trained for the stuff I've done. He was a new cop, but he'd done other stuff, and seen other scary situations. But he's like that. And then, by the way, when he was telling this story, it was like after he was retiring. And so he had been on the job for years and years and years, and this is one that stuck with him. So whatever that thing was probably something that he shouldn't have been messing with, you know. So yeah, pretty weird.
Dang.
Pretty weird.
Yeah, creepy. Lots of creepy stories out there. First responders, morticians, police officers, highway patrolmen, truckers. I'm sure there's pilots are probably another one.
We didn't
I'm
mention
sure that there's pilots, Bermuda Triangle. There's all
We
kinds.
didn't mention our conductors as well.
Conductors.
You know, the train
Yeah,
conductors.
train,
You
yep.
see dead bodies and stuff all the time that are tragic. You know.
Yeah. So I did want to read another one in just a moment, but before I get to that, there's this is a little bit more common in today's society, and maybe I'm crazy, and it's fine if but just hear me out on this, because it's a theory that I've had for 2 years.
It's welcome to the crazy around here, so we're good.
Yeah, it gets kind of knee deep, and it might upset some people, but in today we live in the post-COVID era that I believe is going to go down in history. It's going to change. Everything's changed the course of the world, not only for the visible, but I think for also some of these supernatural things going on.
Yeah.
This leads into a theory that I haven't heard. And if somebody else has heard this, I apologize, but this came directly out of my own head during the time of COVID, when people started wearing masks and stuff, and all that stuff was going on. And for some reason in my head, I started thinking and tying this together with reptilians, right? So we've talked about reptilians on the show before, and I guess for some reason in my head, I started thinking about, okay, what could be a supernatural reason for this? And not only from the time of COVID, but even right now, like the masks are kind of done away with, right? Like the facts are the facts. It doesn't stop the transmission of COVID. It never did. It might help saliva, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is why are people still wearing them? I saw one today at Taco Bell. He had a hat just like that, totally covered, and he had a mask that only showed his eyes. The entire thing was completely full, like completely covered with a mask. And I started thinking about this, not just today, but a couple years ago, that if there are reptilians, right, which I believe there are another hybrid race or something that may be underground, this would be a perfect opportunity for them to be able to basically come out into more society. And I think that they have a different structure of their mouth. I think that they have
it's the big open mouth.
I think that I've got a different kind of mouth structure going on, where that would be a perfect way to get these creatures out in society. And totally,
I think that's one of the reasons they call them reptilians, is because if you look at like an iguana's mouth, or you look at like a snake mouth, it just has this weird kind of like weird grinish thing going on to it, and it's this very long, weird looking mouth, you know. And I don't mean to take you over,
good.
but no, you're onto something.
And it's weird because when I was at the liquor store today as well, dude with my hat again, same kind of hat, and a mask with long hair, white hair.
Yeah, it's like they want to cover absolutely
And he was like
everything.
looking around, kind of like.
So, I mean, I just started thinking, I'm like, if there is some kind of a hybrid or kind of a mutant race or reptilian that, if they were out in public, and this could tie into people who've seen like those kinds of mouths on people, right?
Yeah.
It would be the perfect time for basically just saying, well, just wear a mask and you can basically come out in society and do whatever.
Actually, we had one of our earlier podcasts, I think it was episode 5 maybe, we were talking about aliens trying to conceal themselves as humans. I think it was one when I might have been by myself on that one, but yeah, there was some stories like that. People wearing these obviously fake wigs and sunglasses, the thickest sunglasses you can imagine. And now, like you're saying, if you had a mask on too, like and literally just seeing little tiny bits of skin.
Yeah.
And your ears are kind of covered because you got like this weird wig that's kind of covering the ears.
This ties in, but my coworker I used to work with, her name was Lindsay. She told me a story about her and her brothers, just real quick. They're in Arizona, and there was this really creepy girl that was like she'd always wear gardener stuff. Like she'd wear a gardener outfit, like with the weird gloves and like the stuff on her elbows and like an apron type thing and like full shirt, like almost like long sleeve. It's hot outside.
Oh wow.
And then she'd wear like a gardener hat and like kind of hide her face, like sunglasses, but it was before the mask era.
Yeah.
And she would just walk around the neighborhood sometimes, and they said they would just get so weirded out by her because she walked like a cartoon, like it wasn't like a normal walk. Yeah, it was like very like it was like very like this.
Yeah.
And so when she
we're laughing, but if you see that in real life, I'd be scared. You know?
Yeah. So it was like she was walking like this, and so one time her brothers were driving with a friend of theirs, and they were driving to the neighborhood. They saw her, and they just said, "That's an alien." They just said, one of the friends said, "That's an alien," and right when they said that out loud, but the windows were up, so she shouldn't have heard it.
Right.
And she was like 2 streets down.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, "That's that alien lady," I think is what they said. When they said that, it just stopped and it looked at them.
No way.
Like the bat.
Like it looked right at him. Like it could hear through the car and everything.
Wow.
And so I'm like, dude, maybe that was a real reptilian lady, like a real alien. It's just like.
Wait, was this Arizona you said?
This is in Arizona.
Oh, wow. And we covered that story about like the saucer that was being transported in Arizona.
So creepy story.
Yeah. Well, it was just a thought in my head that took place, and it has never left.
No, it's a great theory.
Call me crazy. I'm fine with being called whatever you want to call me, but it's just there's just something not right. You know, either somebody's got something to hide, or I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't make sense of it other than, hey, this would be a good opportunity for like a reptilian with a weird looking mouth to be able to basically come out more and never have to worry about.
Well, I venture to say that
Mm-hmm.
that people still wearing that is still kind of a little crazy in my mind, So hey, there's different kinds of crazy out there.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It might be crazier not to question it sometimes and think more about those things.
But I will say that that era was so weird, you guys. Like you could literally be a 12-year-old kid walking up to the liquor store. If you have a deep enough voice and you're wearing a mask, they ain't questioning nothing. Yeah. And they're just selling you alcohol. They're just breaking the law.
Or the banks.
The banks were the ones
that really freaked me out. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
First time you could go to a bank with a mask, like ever.
I thought that was wild that we went through that.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's gonna be the end of it. I appreciate the stories. These were some pretty fun stories. Thanks for being here with me, guys. To the listeners, really appreciate your guys' listenership. Thanks for sticking it out. We hope you enjoyed some of these interesting and weird and crazy stories. If you have some suggestions for stuff that we could cover next time, write them into us. We're on Instagram. We're on our YouTube, obviously, at the comments down below. supernaturalstation5@gmail.com. And yeah, we just hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you're here. You're probably interested in some of these same topics, and so that's why we're here. And we hope that you're enjoying it.
And we got some cool live interview stuff coming up that I actually haven't even told my brother about. So there's one that I have that I've been speaking with that we might be able to have on pretty soon. And then like I said, we're on another podcast coming up soon. So I think next Monday or Tuesday, what is it, Wednesday? Or no, Thursday today?
Yeah.
So in a couple days, we'll share it on our links on Instagram. So if you guys follow us on Instagram, that's where we can share that link for the other podcasts that we're on. So it was a cool, humbling experience. Really fun to be a part of it. So
yeah,
if you guys want to ride with us, we'd love to see you guys there. So
thank you so much. Tune in next time. Appreciate you.
I'm quite sure they will say so.